Because you can't tell me that Bennett and McConkey doesn't sound like a law firm. So that's my serious answer. Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I preview your number one Georgia Bulldogs matchup with the Kentucky Wildcats, and we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember to check out store.mygottapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress.
What's in the glass today, Jim?
Right now, an ice cube. Hold on a second. Okay. Ooh, I didn't get a good sound off mine. Knob Creek 9.
That was a good
Knob Creek 9.
You got the Knob Creek 9?
Yeah.
I've got the Buffalo Trace store pick from Hops, Grain, and Vine. Not a sponsor yet.
Yet. I was debating, do you drink a Kentucky bourbon when you play Kentucky? And ultimately, obviously, I decided yes.
I actually didn't even think about it, but yes, it is. I actually have 2 Kentucky straight bourbons. I'm trying to conserve the rest of this Hops, Grain, and Vine store pick. So I've got a backup bottle of Old Granddad Bonded 100 proof. A John Tweed special.
Ah, nice. Very nice.
Both are very delicious, and both are modestly priced at about $30.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, it does amaze me. I'm still baffled by the pricing of bourbon and the secondary market stuff. So I'm still learning.
Welcome to Bourbon Twitter. Welcome to the bourbons, the crazy bourbon.
So with the Kentucky bourbon, we have the Kentucky Wildcats coming to Athens for homecoming, which I kept, when the schedule came out, I felt like it didn't say, I wasn't sure. I felt like it didn't say if it was homecoming or not, but I definitely have seen this week it is officially homecoming. I hadn't been sure.
It's officially homecoming?
It is homecoming.
I feel like I must have missed this.
Right?
Okay, I must have missed this part.
Yeah, I feel like it hasn't been discussed much, but I went through the the game notes and everything, and this is homecoming. So
not only do we have homecoming, but we've got game day, SEC Nation. Man, it's just going to be an old fashioned party, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I'm curious to see, and I'll see it on TV. I won't be there. I can't go. I'll be listening on the radio at the beginning. I probably won't get to my TV until the second half. But I'm curious to see about the environment. As loud as it got, with game day in town for a 12 o'clock kick against Arkansas, I'm assuming and hoping it'll be just as loud, if not louder, here. Kirby hasn't been throwing around like the elite thing and trying to get fans to come. And I think he actually said something along the lines of, our fans are smart enough to know that, how loud they need to be for this one. Something along those lines.
Yeah, it's definitely flown under the radar that's going to be the homecoming game.
Right? Yeah. But so we got game day and SEC Nation both there. 3:30 p.m. CBS game of the week. So this week it's on CBS at 3:30, and it's the big game. So we will not have Rick Neuheisel in the booth. We get
thank the Lord.
Yeah. So again, the Gary Danielson complainers will actually welcome him back this week.
I'm one of the few people that actually enjoy and appreciate Gary Danielson for what he is. Like, it doesn't bother me. He doesn't bother me as much as people. Yeah. Like, people make it out to be like he's such an annoyance to the game, but I am not one of those people.
I actually agree.
Not that I think that he's like the best announcer in the world, but It's like, come on, guys.
Right. No, I'm with you. He's good. But Let's see. So I don't know, would it be homecoming? It looks like the weather is supposed to be good. So partly cloudy, high of 76 and a low of 49. So it looks like a nice, crisp fall day. The official hashtag, as we review every week, is hashtag UK versus UGA. So be sure to tag all your tweets with that if you're tweeting during the game on Saturday. The Wildcats come in at 6-0. 4-0 in the SEC, ranked 11th in the AP poll. So we just missed that top 10 matchup. Do you have any idea when the last time was that Kentucky started a season 6-0? It's been a long time.
When was the last time, Jim? Because I definitely don't know.
1950.
1950.
Yeah. So long time coming for these guys. All-time series, Georgia obviously leads 60 wins, 12 losses, and 2 ties. We're on an 11-game win streak, which is the longest win streak in the history of the series. Do you remember the last time we lost to these guys? Well, I guess I just answered that 11 years ago. I guess technically 12 years ago. So, yeah, 2009. I was at that game. All I can remember is, so if it was 2009, so that was the Joe Cox year, I believe, right? Yeah, so that was a Joe Cox year. And there was something like, we had like what should have basically been like the game-winning drive, and something funky happened. Like Joe Cox had a weird pitch to Washaun Ealey, and it like hit Ealey in the face mask or something, and he fumbled, and we lost the game. That's all I can remember. Bad memories.
I definitely don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The memories of Kentucky are typically, either a road trip through bourbon country for some folks, or, the occasional loss.
Let's see. Why don't we hit the news and notes? So, some thoughts from Kirby's press conference. This is mainly from Monday. I will say in general, I don't know if you watched it or not, but I think we talked. I don't remember if this was in our Auburn review or not, but we definitely. I know you and I talked about this, about the poor souls having to ask Kirby questions when we're like the newly minted number 1 team, and just thinking he was going to be grumpy.
Yeah,
I feel like it was less boisterous than I was expecting. Like, he wasn't quite as angry as I thought he would be. Not that he didn't give anyone a hard time, but it wasn't as bad.
He was in a good mood.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I predicted.
So tell us, what exactly did he say? Because I feel like I caught bits and pieces of this, but I wasn't 100%.
Yeah, obviously the first question was it was about, hey, you're number 1, and kind of talk about that kind of deal. And he said it's just a number. Right, it's just a number.
Yeah, I do.
He did say, I like this. He said that's not a burden we carry. The burden we carry is how we play. So, the typical Kirby kind of coach speak stuff. My favorite one though was someone brought up. They said the last time you were number 1 in season, which I'm assuming they were. Well, I'm not assuming. It was when we were number 1 in the college football playoff, right? Because we haven't been number 1 in season in the AP poll since 1982. But they said, so the last time you were number 1, you started the South Carolina game with an onside kick, and you said you wanted to stay hungry. So I don't know if you remember that. I vaguely remember that. And Kirby was like, I don't remember that. I wouldn't have known that if you hadn't told me. And then he was like, he said, you guys need a story, write it all you want. So that was about as big of a blowback as he gave on anyone. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I mean, he's just in a good mood. I mean, I'm sure that he's definitely going to be completely going in on the players, has been all week long, and will continue to throughout the week.
Yeah.
We're recording this Tuesday, so I can't imagine the reminders and how creatively he's going to remind them that they still have a lot to play for.
Right. No rat poison. No rat poison.
No rat poison. Exactly. And I have a feeling that of all the teams that, and this is something I feel like UGA fans and particular UGA social media and even more particular and specific UGA Twitter needs to just get used to the fact, because I used to subscribe to this, like, don't rank us number one. I don't want to. Don't you put that on me? Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby?
Right.
It's more of I've kind of gotten to the point now where I've exercised a lot of the demons from the past, and it's like, you know what? If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man, and if you want to beat the man, you got to be the man. So right now we are the man. So it's just one of those things, man. You just got to get used to being good. And frankly, like, this is the kind of stuff that good teams have to deal with. And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that the fan base is kind of ready for it too, because I've sensed it in the text thread. My own like natural tendency is to be like that. Like, man, I don't want to be ranked number one. I want to have a chip on our shoulder all season long.
Yes.
Like, we got something to prove. We're gonna shock the world, baby. You know, or revenge tour. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyway, now it's just like, you know what? We're the best because we are the best. You guys can all suck it.
What I didn't want, I was like that too. I think I've said that to you, like that I like being number two. I guess my main thing was like what I did not want to happen. I didn't want to pass Alabama without beating them or them losing, obviously, right? Like, so that's fine. But like I was not on the like, hey, Georgia should jump Alabama when both teams are undefeated train. Like that kind of thing doesn't bother me, and that's where I liked the number two, because I like that motivation factor, and I don't want Alabama to have any of that fuel. Like, hey, these guys jumped us kind of deal. So, but you know, now that they've lost, obviously I'm good with it. But yeah, I mean, we Munson, we understand Munsoning. But yeah, I'm with you. The only other notes I had from the press conference were just around the injuries. So there was a question. Obviously, there was a JT Daniels question. Basically, if JT can play, who starts? And Kirby said, "I'm not going to get into any hypotheticals. We're trying to get JT back," and that's about what he left it at. So we'll see. I think we're kind of still thinking Florida game is our best guess for JT coming back.
Yeah, I mean, McElroy and Aaron Murray kind of seem to think that, like, there's no reason for him to come back, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, whatever.
Are we gonna? Did I skip ahead? Are we gonna get to that, or?
I'm trying to think if there's
now a good time to talk about it.
Well, there's some listener questions that are similar. Okay, let's keep going with the injury front. So on Chris Smith, I didn't realize this. So Kirby said that his shoulder came out of place, and they put it back in. So I didn't realize that. Like, they put it back in. Chris Smith.
Whose shoulder?
Christopher Smith.
Oh, Smith. Okay.
Said that his shoulder popped out place in the game on that first drive. They put it back in. And he said Ron Corson.
That's what I was expecting when I saw that. Like, when I saw him in the thing, I was like, he must have separated his shoulder or something.
So he said that Ron Corson has seen guys back from that in a week. So he said that was possible. He said Salyer was an ankle sprain. He said it did not swell, but then he gave the kiss of death, hopeful to get him back.
Oh, geez.
Then he said hoping to get Arian back, hoping to get Jermaine back. So that's three kits.
A triple hopeful.
Triple hopeful. So I don't expect any of those guys. He did.
I feel like Kirby at this point. Kirby's just trolling us, right? He's a big My God a Podcast listener, and he's just dropping these nuggets for us.
Obviously, he's figured out how to communicate with us through the media.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Kirby Smart listens to this podcast.
So good. He did say Rosemy-Jack Saint looked good in warm-ups last week against Auburn, and basically said he could have played. So that's good. And then he said, not sure on Dom. So again, I'm assuming no Blaylock this week. And then he said, McIntosh has a little bit of a hamstring. That was it on the injury front. And then Ladd McConkey is the SEC Freshman of the Week. I don't know if you saw that. So that was cool.
Yep. Good old lad.
So he is a good lad.
Here's hoping that he's a good lad this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. One tidbit I saw coming out of the Kentucky media, their second leading receiver, Josh Ali, is doubtful. He didn't play against LSU either. But Stoops said that he was doubtful. So I don't know. You never know if that's like reverse hopeful or what's going on there. But I don't know. Since he didn't play last week, I guess I would assume he's not playing this week either. But we shall see.
Any other tidbits?
That's all I got.
Bits and pieces.
No.
They're not missing any. They're not missing any more folks.
They are. So he's not the only guy. I think there's like 3 guys that they're going to be without.
I haven't seen a whole lot of smack talk coming from the Kentucky side of the house. Unlike our recent foes.
So
they're usually a quieter bunch.
Yeah, I've seen some people like saying it on Twitter, but I haven't seen it myself. Like I've seen some people tweeting like, "Oh, the Kentucky fans think this or that," but I haven't seen it myself. Other than those people like starting to go and like kind of retweeting some people. But yeah,
I saw one that was like it was like death was going to each door, and UGA was next.
Yeah. A Kentucky person did that? Interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of chatter on the socials, but nowhere near the level of Auburn and any of the other South Carolina. Like there's been the hyperbole from some fan bases has been quite hysterical to watch.
Yeah. Okay, I found the other injury guys. So I mentioned Josh Ali. The other 2 are Marquand McCall and Octavius Oxendine. So McCall is the guy, he already missed the LSU game. And then Oxendine is a defensive player, and he actually had 2 sacks in the LSU game, it looks like. But he had a lower leg injury against LSU. Looks like he's out for the rest of the year, actually. So,
yeah. It says that he's out for the season.
Yeah,
so that's not going to help them from a defensive standpoint.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's all I got. So, you want to go into start with our offense, their defense?
One other news and note item.
Ooh, nice.
Something that I thought was interesting was that is it Levi's? Levi's or Levis?
Levis. It is Levis. Yeah.
Levis. Okay. So Levis has been named to the Davey O'Brien Award list.
Oh, really? So was he like an in-season addition to the list?
He is an in-season addition to the Davey O'Brien Award watch list,
which has rendered the preseason watch list totally irrelevant.
Exactly. Yeah, he was. I guess after the LSU game, he was added to that list, and then he was also named the National Offensive Player of the Week.
He was this past week. He was.
By the Walter Camp Football Foundation.
Okay, I guess that's what. I mean, it makes sense playing against that LSU defense.
I was about to say. Turns out when you play LSU, you may have a chance for Offensive Player of the Week, and you get added to Award Watch season.
Right.
But as we've seen, when you come up against this Georgia team, you tend to get knocked down to reality. Right. As Arkansas felt that from an offensive standpoint. So the chances of him ending as the Davey O'Brien Award winner are probably pretty small.
Yeah,
but if you're a betting person, his odds went up precipitously after the LSU game.
Yeah, so in my extensive podcast preparation, I watched the highlights of LSU Kentucky, in part just to make sure that I knew how to say Levis, because the pronunciation is important to me, as we know, and it is Levis, so I knew that for sure. And he is I don't know. Since we're talking about him, do you want to stick with just like their offense and our defense, or do you want to?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay,
because that's actually where this entire game is going to hinge.
Okay,
so
let's start there then. So there's one thing to point out about Levis, right? Is he is a transfer. So he's a transfer from Penn State, and to hear Kentucky fans talk about it and the folks talking up Kentucky, basically the thought is that he was kind of the missing piece, to this team. That they've had the ground game. They've been able to run the ball, for years, but they haven't really been able to pass it. So I don't know. That's kind of the talking point that I've heard.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just so here's my thought. And this is why I think that this entire game is going to hinge. And frankly, this is going to be like moving forward as we go through the season, especially if Stetson is going to continue to be the starter, which I'm assuming that Stetson is going to be the starter for this game.
Yeah, me too.
Based off of the fact that I actually tend to agree with McElroy that there's no justification for him not getting the start. So in my opinion, that becomes like a known quantity on the offensive side of the ball. We become basically the pattern for when Stetson is the quarterback. So in my opinion, the game is ultimately going to hinge on how our defense stacks up with their offense.
Okay.
And the reality is that their offense does really well when they run the ball. If like the things that they're really good at doing, we are really good and much better than anything that they've seen all season long at stopping.
Yeah.
So you go back and you look at the offensive performances that they've put out there in games that were close and games that they won. I think that the LSU game was really kind of the anomaly. And frankly, every game that you see from a statistical analysis standpoint against LSU from this point forward almost has to be seen as like a lame duck session for LSU, because I just don't think that they're very good. I think that it's a completely chaotic situation at LSU. So the results there don't really even matter, in my opinion. So looking elsewhere, like they barely won against everybody they played, basically. Barely won against South Carolina, barely won against the mighty Chattanooga Mocs.
Yeah.
So you look at what they did against those teams, and I'm like, if I were in Kentucky's shoes, I would say that we would have to score at least, and probably realistically even more, like 20, 30 plus points is where they're going to have to target to try to get to from an offensive standpoint, just to beat us. And let's for real, like we're averaging 5 points a game. Like, does anybody really think that Kentucky is going to even remotely come close to that?
Yeah, no. When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, he's right.
Yeah, like there's just no way. Like the math just doesn't add up. There's some things that you can look at from a data standpoint and just be like, regardless of how you feel about how the season has gone, who Georgia's played, who they played, who anybody's played, just from a macro number standpoint, the math just doesn't add up there, guys. What I see happening here is an absolute bloodbath. Layered on with the fact that they have to play virtually perfectly from an offensive standpoint against the best defense in the country, against the pass, against the run. Literally, what are you going to do? It's pick your poison with this defense. So they have a negative turnover ratio, which is, you and I were texting about this today. Like it is mind-boggling to look at their turnover margin and have them sitting at an undefeated status. They have negative 1.3, I think, or something like that, turnover margin at this point, which basically means that they're good for a couple of turnovers in this game to offset any turnovers that we might have. And if they're turning the ball over more than once, even if they turn the ball over at all, I feel like that ultimately is going to kill any chances that they have of winning. They have to play a perfect game from offensive standpoint, and they have to play a perfect game from a defensive standpoint. And based on what I saw in some of the film reviews and some of the teams that they played, I just don't see it happening. And I frankly think that the spread is probably too small.
Here's the thing. Like if you look on paper, and what they've done, like they have put up numbers. I mean, in fact, and they've got some individuals that are doing very well. So, Wan'Dale Robinson, their number one receiver, he leads the SEC in yards receiving. And then Chris Rodriguez actually leads the SEC in yards rushing. But again, to your point you were just making, who have they been doing that against? And I would urge everyone to go like onto YouTube and look at the Kentucky versus LSU highlight package. There's like a 10-minute version of the game that ESPN has posted. I think the wording I used to you was that I could run through the holes the offensive line was opening up. I mean, LSU's defense was just getting absolutely gashed. And yeah, I don't put any stock into that. Our guy, John Tweet Sports, he was on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast this week, and I listened to that this morning. And I know he was just saying that, like, if you look at that game, like LSU looks like they've quit. Like the players have quit on Coach O, which we all know how you feel about Coach O. That's been well documented on here. But I have a hard.
Hey, TikTok.
Yeah, seriously,
Coach O.
Right. But it was mind-boggling how big those holes were. The only other Kentucky game that I've watched of any note or significant amount was Florida, for obvious reasons. And I really only caught the end of that because that was the same day we played Arkansas. We drove home back to Charlotte from Athens that day. The one thing I do remember thinking was like, they were running the ball all over Florida, but then they kept throwing, it seemed like unnecessarily against Florida at least. And that was leading to bad things. So I don't know, like it felt like, I don't know, like they don't necessarily believe in like taking what the defense is giving you. I guess it seemed like they were trying to force the throw in. But again, like I don't see them being able to run on Georgia. Not on our defense. So again, it comes down to who they played, right? Just like we were saying with Arkansas when they were coming in with similar accolades, right?
This does have, it's funny you mentioned that because it does have a very Arkansas-ish feel to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I said the same thing about Auburn. It had a very, like Auburn was statistically from an offensive and defensive standpoint they were better defensively than Arkansas was. And they were basically statistically the similar to Arkansas, a little bit worse than Arkansas from an offensive standpoint, from a stats, advanced stats or whatever.
Right.
Kentucky doesn't have the luxury of being super sexy on offense, but they are pretty decent on defense from what I've seen. But at the same time, it's like, it almost feels flipped. Like Arkansas was really highly regarded on offense and defense. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that Kentucky... It feels so much like the Arkansas game is really what it comes down to. Like on paper, these guys look like Arkansas did.
Right.
But we saw how that happened. And yeah. I mean, I would not be surprised if we shut them out. Like it would not shock me at all.
Okay. The one other thing I wanted to point out on the their offense, our defense is your boy Kelee Ringo. Right? What is it? He's the island that wide receivers go to die on. And
Kelee Ringo is the island that wide receivers go to die. TM. And maybe Kelee Ringo is the officially unofficial cornerback of My God, a Podcast.
So we had a listener tag the pod. I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday. Lee Munger tagged us, giving us his official stat line. So PFF College says that Kelee Ringo has allowed the lowest passer rating in the SEC at 16.4. The receiver that Keely is covering has been targeted 18 times. He's only allowed 3 catches for 40 yards. He's allowed 0 touchdowns, and he has one interception. So just some validation and some actual numbers to go with your thoughts.
Some numbers to go with my thoughts. Yeah. Yes, and I think that actually answers one of the questions that I had about how many catches Keely had given up, because he gave up that one long pass to D-Rob, which was just an absolute dime. So one of those 3 catches was literally like a one play type scenario that their quarterback just hit a perfect throw.
Right.
So anyway, a 16 passer rating is pretty anemic. Basically, we talked about this in the past. Like, if you can cut off an entire swath of the field from ever getting thrown to, you like your chances from a passing standpoint, which is probably no shocker on why UGA is, one of the. I think they are the best. They're number 1, right? They're the number 1 passing defense in the country. If not, they're one of the top, right? So, I just don't. Yeah, I mean, throw on this team if you wish, and frankly, they're probably going to make you throw because we're so stout at the defensive. Our defensive line is so insane. So good luck trying to run the ball, and when you do try to throw it, you got guys like Keely Ringo you're throwing to. Good luck, sir.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's good luck trying to do anything against this defense. I mean, 5.5 points allowed per game is. Obviously good enough for first in the SEC. And, Florida is second with 3 times as many at 16.5. I mean, it's crazy. It seems like it's not real. But it is. So,
I, for one, welcome our new defensive overlords, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I mean, I like, it's Kirby Smart's dream come true, right? I mean, this is exactly how he wants to win games, and I've got no problem with it.
So Matt Hinton writes in his tweets that Georgia is so fascinating, which I feel like that he puts into 26 characters. I don't know, whatever the character limit is. Tweets. Yeah. The most fascinating team. In that we're the best team that he's ever seen that doesn't have a single player that he would describe as a star.
Right.
I would have a bone to pick with that. However, from an outsider standpoint, he's not wrong. Basically there's 20 guys who could be stars if they were on literally any other team in the country. We're just incredibly dominant. The defense is so dominant, and it's because we don't have a single player in the top 20 in SECs for tackles for loss. No one on the offense is in the top 20 for yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis, who literally everybody talks about as being the cornerstone. I myself have talked about him being the cornerstone of the defense. He plays 35% of the defensive snaps.
Yeah.
Some of that is due to just how that math works out with 4th down and the fact that he didn't play for swaths of the game because we were winning by so much. But at the same token, you still can't factor in 70% of the defensive game has not been Jordan Davis in it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that our depth it's insane. I mean, you take Jordan Davis out of the game and you replace him with Jalen Carter, it's not fair.
You know what, Jim?
Yeah.
You know what, Jim? It's almost like that. This is what Alabama feels like. We've arrived. We've finally arrived at the math that it took to get here. Over the course of 6 years?
Yeah,
Kirby's been with Georgia for 6 years.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is you always you play them, and it's our ones are as good as their ones, but it's the depth, right? And that's the thing, is that now not only you can say that kind of thing, our ones are as good as their ones, but with Georgia, Georgia's twos are as good as Georgia's ones. Like that's the point where we're at. And let's segue into the offense on that because that's clearly true on the offense, especially if you look at the receiver room. And I think we need to give Cortez Hankerton. Did I get that? Did I say that right? Cortez Hankerton? How do you say his name?
Cortez Hankton.
I added an extra syllable. Yeah. I think we got to give him some credit because I know, like personally, I was kind of questioning him, especially like in 19 in that receiver room. But what has happened in the receiver room this year has been like nothing short of spectacular. I mean, Ladd McConkey was the leading receiver against Auburn, and I mean, and not just that, like, you know, people weren't talking about him. Although like we knew who he was, and we talked about him like in our preview and stuff. So it's not like we didn't know who he was. But to say that I would have expected him to do what he did on Saturday, I can't claim that at all. I don't think anyone could. But like, and he's good. He's super fast. His route running is crisp. I mean, he was making guys look dumb. Clearly there's good coaching involved there. So I don't know. I think a bit of a mea culpa on my part, right, of kind of questioning him a couple of years ago. He's doing a good job this year. It's definitely showing.
Yeah. So on the Cortez Hankton front, I do feel like we talked about, you know, Addae. We talked about the coaching that Muschamp kind of, that Muschamp has brought to the table. I think that I probably owe an apology to Cortez Hankton because I was probably one of the ones that was lamenting the fact that we couldn't get wide receivers open years ago. So what you've seen in the evolution of this Monken offense is the benefit that comes with having a full offseason, having a new offensive coordinator, and how it impacts the game. So I don't know. I was a big critic of Cortez Hankton when we had our offensive struggles years ago, last year, wide receivers not being able to get open, et cetera. It felt like it was something that fell on the wide receiver coach, which was Cortez Hankton at that time.
Yep.
Ironically enough, there's a guy at work that played with Cortez Hankton in college. He was a wide receiver, and he was talking about Cortez and how awesome he was, and he was hyping him up, and I was telling him, I was like, man, I don't know. He's struggling right now, but I guess that they're just like with our players, just like with our defense, like there's always room for growth. And we've seen it from the wide receiver core, and we've seen it from a coaching standpoint as well. So kudos to the whole team on the offensive side, because I mentioned this on the last episode, but when you have George, like literally our best wide receivers haven't even played that much this season.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You have Keiris Jackson.
Yep.
You have George Pickens. You have Trey Burton, which obviously Trey's played a little bit, but like frankly, hasn't really been much of a factor.
Jermaine Burton. Let's
Jermaine Burton. Sorry. That's the bourbon talking. I'm like rattling off things here.
It was close.
Jermaine Burton. You have Burton. And then you also have, Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, who frankly was probably slated to be a big, and we have Dominic Blaylock. Oh yeah, there's another guy. Like seriously, like we just have an embarrassment of riches, and they're all performing at such a high level on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and who is stepping up, right? You got Ladd McConkey.
My God, a freshman.
Right.
Well, and we've got the there was someone put out a meme of the distracted boyfriend, and the girlfriend was
yes.
You saw it.
I did.
So you had the boyfriend's like looking at Ladd McConkey, and the girlfriend's like, what?
Yeah.
Brock Bowers, he's like, everybody's forgotten about me.
Right. Yeah. You're over Brock Bowers and looking at McConkey. But I mean, with both of them,
My God, a freshman.
It's unbelievable.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, man. So, and then I guess again, like it was good to see the run game, last week, and I felt like like Zamir White had a really good game, right? And the other thing too that we did see, and this is something that I talked to my dad a good bit yesterday, and he's when I talked to him, he's like, I've only rewatched the game twice now, or like something like that. But he was talking about Broderick Jones at left tackle and how good he looked at left tackle. So that's definitely something to watch out for. We talked about Salyer and like, will he or will he not play? But I think one of the things to wonder is, even if he does play, is he the left tackle, or has Jones now locked down that left tackle spot, and then Salyer slides into one of the guard spots if he's able to go? So that's something to watch for. And also, like, the carry distribution has started to get a little, like, we're, I think, leaning on Zeus a bit more, which I obviously like. Personally, I like to get a guy kind of in a rhythm. So we'll watch for that. And a Jeff Dancer shout out. I listened to about half the Bulldog Brunch this week, and one of his thoughts on why the wide receivers are playing so well is that with all the injuries, we can't rotate the receivers as much anymore, so they're getting into the groove, which I thought was hilarious. Right. But so to call out some things for Kentucky, again, on the kind of on paper thing, right? So they are fourth in the SEC in points per game allowed. Now, again, like, it is staggering the difference, right? So fourth place is 17.5 points. But again, by comparison, Georgia is first at 5.5 points. So, more than 3 times as much. And then they also are third in the league in yards allowed per game on defense at 305. So only Alabama and Georgia are allowing less yards per game than the Kentucky defense. But again, against who? And then a couple of guys to call out on their defense. So DeAndre Square has 46 tackles. He's a linebacker. That's good enough to tie for 7th in the SEC. And then J.J. Weaver has 4 sacks, and that's tied with Adam Anderson. So same amount of sacks as Adam Anderson. So just a couple of kids to watch out for Kentucky. I
don't know, man.
But I'm with you.
We talked about the offense. We talked about the offense. We talked about the defense. I mean, yeah. I mentioned it earlier, but like, it would not shock me at all if we were to shut them out.
Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me. The scenario that you have, and I think we talked about this in the last podcast. If you're the average team coming up against the University of Georgia, when you face us, you basically should expect that your production from an offensive standpoint is going to be reduced by 23 plus points or something like that. So like, you look at their average scoring is like, I think their average scoring is like 30 or 40 points or something like that. So like, again, it's math. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, they would have to score, like, even on that, with that factored in, like, I think I said 20 plus points. They might have to score 40 in order to beat us. You know what I mean? If you're reducing their average or whatever, but like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it happening, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about like what you feel like our offense is capable of putting up, and then what their offense would have to do against our defense, it is hard to see.
Yeah.
Before we get to listener questions, I did want to call out one thing, or I wanted to get you to talk about this a little bit, because you had texted me about on, I think it was on Kirby Smart All Access, just around our boy Todd Hartley in his special teams coaching.
Creepy Todd. I feel like the people only really heard about Creepy Todd recently, but yeah, it's been an ongoing joke for like the last couple of years. I feel like for Jim and I, because we would see these pictures of Todd Hartley on social media, and it's just like the guy just looks weird. I'm sorry, Todd, you look a little weird in some.
I feel
pictures.
like it's gotten way better. He's much more photogenic.
It's gotten
now.
way better.
You have to go back a ways to find them, but then you're like,
I don't know, man. There was one that you sent the other day that, like, I was like, "Yep, there he is. That's our old boy."
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like he hired like an image consultant or something to like, "Hey, man, come on, let's like just smile, just smile." A little
right. But on Kirby Smart, I think was it on Kirby Smart Alexis this week? Like they were showing that he was like basically running the special teams in practice all last week, right?
In the all access that I sent you, that I watched, and I think. It was someone on Twitter had mentioned it, and I Googled it. I didn't even realize that this was like a show, but like you can it's on GeorgiaDogs.com. You can just go and check it out every week, basically.
Oh yeah,
it's like the Kirby Smart All Access.
Yeah, it's the coaches show. Yeah, it's out there. It just like I don't tend to watch it because it's like
it's fluffy.
It's not like not like the old days. Like it's not like Vince Dooley sitting down in a red coat, with his tie on. And just talking to somebody, or like Jim Donnan sitting down with Lauren Smith, it's not the same. That's what I want to see.
Yeah,
I want to see. I want to see Kirby sitting down with either DJ Shockley or Jeff Dantzler and just talking about the game. I mean, how amazing would that be? Like that's what I want to see. And
it would be more amazing if they were to sit down with a bottle of bourbon and talk.
Right.
That would be. That would be something. UGA Communications, like, Claude, come on, Claude, let's sit.
Speaking of which,
let's sit Kirby down.
That just reminded me of something. That I meant to bring up. The wallpaper that the school tweeted out that they had to delete because it was like the Classic City Lager can, basically, and it said I have to look at my own phone because I saved it before they deleted it. Obviously, it says Classic City Showdown. That made me think of that. Which now I'm wondering, like, I don't think they re-released a wallpaper yet. So, like, the school, they need to get on it unless they're counting that as their wallpaper for the week. But it's not out there anymore because they had. My question is, like, so what do you think? Do you think someone was like, hey, maybe that's not the best idea? Like, our graphic looks just like the Creature Comforts can, and we don't have approval? Or do you think Creature Comforts actually complained?
Well, we have a fraternity brother that we could ask about that.
That did run through my head after I said that. I was like, if only we knew someone who worked there.
Dear Matt Stevens.
We'll have to check on that. I'll ask him. Okay. So, anyways,
we'll check in the background. I had the thought to ask him about it, but I didn't remember about it until you just mentioned it.
That's amazing. I had not thought about asking him until just now. So that's good. You're ahead of me. You're ahead of the curve on that one.
I was thinking about reaching out to him because, I don't know if you knew this, but he was my roommate. But anyway,
I didn't remember that. I did not remember that. That's funny. Only thing I did, like every time I'm at Creature Conference, I ask the bartender, like, hey, is Matt here? Like he's never there whenever I'm there.
They're always like they always it's like a walled garden over there. They like act like he's like the Pope. Like,
oh dude, yeah, they all like everyone. If you ask anyone about Matt, like they all love him. It's like, oh no, he's not here right now, but isn't he great? I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. All right. Anyways,
yeah.
Let's hit the listener questions.
Let's hit the listener questions. We'll circle back on the Creature Comforts talk.
Right, not a sponsor. Yeah, we need to talk to Matt about that too. Anyway, all right. 51-7 GATA. With the offensive struggles in the 2019 and 2020 Kentucky games, do you see this as a possible issue going into Saturday? This is basically a playoff game. The winner will win the East. And then he adds, an 11-1 team that does not win its division won't make the playoff, in my opinion. I gotta say, I'm not worried about the 2019 or 2020 offensive struggles against Kentucky because in 19, James Coley, and like that's all I'm going to say about that. And then in 20 last year, I kind of throw everything out the window. And that was a bit of a weird game at Kentucky last year where we kind of just like shut everything down and just started running. So I don't know, like very different. Like Todd Monken, 2021 Todd Monken offense, very different than either of those years. I don't know. Like I'm saying I put that more on Georgia ineptitude, honestly, over the last 2 years than prowess of Kentucky's defense, is what I'm saying.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2020. Yeah. Anything offensively from 2020 or 2019, in my opinion, are just kind of like basically irrelevant. However, I do think that I definitely do think that this is basically a scenario where we are going to just run the ball unless we don't have to. I mean, you saw it. Mm-hmm. You saw it in the Arkansas game. I mean, that's basically what I think is going to happen here.
Yeah.
And whatever the game plan was for Arkansas is basically what we're going to have for this. With the exception, the caveat there is going to be on our defensive side of things is that I have a feeling that they're not going to be afraid to throw the ball. Which,
Kentucky,
frankly, I think
Kentucky won't be afraid. They're not going to be afraid to throw the ball.
Yeah,
yeah. I agree.
No, they're going to try to. They're going to throw the ball more than Arkansas did.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure.
However, I don't know that that's going to work out for them.
Yep, fair. On the 11-1 team that doesn't win the division, not making the playoff. The only thing I'll say there is I'm super locked in on Georgia, but if you look around college football right now, everywhere else, it's pretty chaotic right now. So I wouldn't say that's a given right now, because this is a bit of a crazy year in most of the rest of the country. So I wouldn't rule that out. Probably not likely, but I wouldn't rule it out. All right.
Right.
Okay. DGD podcast. Who will have to be the impact player to win this game?
I'm going to let you answer this question before I answer it.
I have one of those super cheating answers. And I'm going to go back to it, but I'm going to basically reiterate something you said earlier, just around I already forgot whose tweet you brought up. It was the writer, but the idea, right? Around, around how there's not a superstar. So my point there is I don't think it is a single. I can't really point to an individual impact player that has to step up to beat Kentucky. I think it's it's going to be a true team effort, and it's going to be spread evenly amongst so many guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that really, again, you know me. I love clarifying questions, right?
I'll allow it here.
So what are we considering impact? Because there's a number of ways that I could interpret that question, right? So from an impact standpoint, Nakobe Dean and his ability to read the offense, and maybe I don't know that we've talked about this, or maybe I can't remember if we talked about it in the last one, but recently there was this revelation that Nakobe Dean was out there making. Basically, he was Peyton Manning. He was Peyton Manninging, if you can say that. Manninging.
Yes. I'm following.
He was Peyton Manninging the defense.
Yeah.
Basically, what that means is that the defense and the defensive coordinator, Kirby, and the team are making play calls out onto the field. They're running it, but at the same time, Nakobe Dean is reading what's going on the offensive side, and he is making on-the-fly changes to the play.
And I presume you just mean he's yelling Omaha over and over again.
Omaha! So that's actually really funny. I need a minute for that one.
Sorry.
So, basically, and you've heard the players themselves talk about this. whatever 17 calls we're running, whether it's a good call or a bad call or whatever, like we're running it. Like, you know what I mean? Like they've all bought into what he's doing. And I don't know who had that quote or not, but like that really speaks to a level of understanding that the team has of the defense. And in my opinion, he's ultimately going to come down to be he may not win. He may not be the winner in the stats column from a tackle standpoint or whatever. I mean, if you're going off of that, like, I mean, Channing Tindall is probably going to be the winner there based on just a statistical standpoint. Mm-hmm. But from an impact, like him making the right calls and the right reads to shut them down and potentially, Jim, I might need to look up like recipes for bourbon donuts because we might have a Kentucky donut on our hands here, sir.
Where? I mean, I love it, but I'm not exactly sure. Okay. Kentucky donut. I'm gotcha. We're gonna put the donut on them. I'm with you, dude. What's the? There's a good donut place. There used to be. Like, oh wait, you're in Marietta. I'm thinking Alpharetta because I lived in Alpharetta because there's one over by like the Avalon Mall. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I think that's what it's called.
Yes, I'm very familiar.
But there's a donut place right by there that's excellent. I wonder if they have a bourbon donut.
We have a wonderful donut place here in Marietta called Donut Dolly's that my family loves for me not to go to, which I guess my wife doesn't like for me to go to.
Because she doesn't want you to eat donuts, or she doesn't like the donuts?
She doesn't want to eat the donut.
Got it. Yes, understood. Okay.
They're just so good and they're delicious.
I mean, I feel like we need a donut. Dollies. I feel like we need a donut sponsor. Also,
I feel like we do need a donut sponsor. The way the defense has been played.
Oh, so good.
I may take John up there. Marietta John, we'll take him up there and see if we can get a donut sponsor if they pitch a shutout this weekend.
Nice.
But listen, we need a donut sponsor.
When you sponsor the podcast, we need a donut sponsor. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, we'll go with Nakobe Dean for impact player. That's fair. I like that. Okay, Salty Dog. Okay, who are y'all's offensive and defensive MVPs through the halfway point of the season? Then he adds, and I love and enjoy the podcast. So first off, thank you, Salty Dog. I think, John, you're locked in. You have to say Nakobe Dean now. I feel like. But you don't have to.
So,
but
I think that so who's my defensive player of the year? Is that
MVP.
The straight up question?
MVP. Who's your most valuable player of the offense and the defense?
Most valuable player of the defense. Okay.
No. You mean to give you mine? Because I've got it. I mean,
just go ahead.
I mean, to me, it's like I know he only plays 35% of the snaps, but it's Jordan Davis. To me,
right? Yeah, I would have to say that Jordan Davis is definitely has got to be the impact there. And the reason that I say that is that again, it comes down to like, okay, yes, Nakobe Dean has to make the right calls. He has to, quarterback everything. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we have everything going on with the defensive side of the ball, but it all starts with Jordan Davis up front. He's the point of attack. He's the first line of defense. He commands the attention of multiple facets of an offense because he has to. So again, I think that it's going to be one of those things where you look back and you say, is there a player more deserving of a Heisman mention that has no statistical justification for it? Is 100,000% going to be written in the annals of time will be Jordan Davis. Because at the end of the day, I believe that the Georgia Bulldogs are going to run the table. We are going to get to Atlanta and we are going to beat Alabama, and we are going to then go and continue to march on in what has been referred to as the Kirby Death March. And Jordan Davis will be holding the flag the entire way.
I like it. Offensive MVP thus far at the halfway season, I feel like is a lot trickier. And can I give you a hot take?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard to argue that it isn't Stetson Bennett. And let me say why. Because just knowing the fact that and this is not a Stetson is better than JT take. It's that look, JT has not been able to go for multiple games, and if Stetson Bennett had decided to move on and leave Georgia after last year, first off, no one would have blamed him, right? Like that would have been like a pretty normal thing to do, I think. But he didn't. He stuck around, and if we didn't have him, I don't think the offense would be functioning like it is. So I say Stetson Bennett.
Okay. So I've got two answers here.
Okay.
I don't think that you're wrong. I think that Stetson Bennett is 100,000% totally worthy of this as a standalone. But the reason why I go with a co-award here is Zamir White is just as deserving for being able to put him in that position, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
because without the
fair.
running game, without the running game producing the way that it has, because you can't just dial into the run. Sometimes we're forcing them to basically, and really it could just be the running backs in general. I'm picking on Zamir because he is head and shoulders the winner in this regard, in that he has six touchdowns. The next running back that is even closest is James Cook with 2 touchdowns. So from a we run to set up the pass, and pass to set up the run, or however you want to look at it. Without Zamir White, I don't think that Stetson's able to open things up, because he's averaging 5 yards a carry. He's got 6 touchdowns. I mean, James Cook is averaging 6 yards a carry. And, you go down the line, like Zamir's got 350 yards rushing right now, which, if that continues to play out, like he could really be touching on 1,000-yard, like probably one of the quietest 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah.
That a UGA running back has ever had, only because he's got he's got 3 other running backs that have significant amounts of yards and carries that would have normally have been going to him. But he is the workhorse for the running game. He is. And I've said it, that if you're in a situation where you need 2-3 yards to win the game, or get a touchdown, or get a first down, or whatever it is, Zamir White has to be your go-to back. And I've mentioned this in the past, like I hope to God that, Kendall Milton or somebody doesn't get the call on like that third down, got to score a touchdown against Alabama to win the SEC championship to go to the college football playoff. Like in my mind, Zamir White has to be that guy.
Yeah.
I don't care who's got the hot hand. It's got to be Zamir White.
Yeah.
But your point about Stetson, like, I mean, at this point, he's the leading passer for the university. Like he has more yards.
Yeah.
He has more yards per attempt. He has more air yards per attempt, which is actually really surprising. Stetson is averaging 13 air yards per attempt. JT is averaging 8.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's, yeah. I think JT's injury obviously folds in there, right? And because there was nothing downfield at all against Clemson. So, but I just think again, knowing JT's injuries, we wouldn't be where we're at without Stetson. So, but I think but yeah, Zeus. I like the Zeus pick too. So this is a good segue into the.
I was just about to say, are we segueing into a quarterback controversy?
Well, yeah. So segue into the mailman. I call this the mailman questions segment of the listener questions. So we've got 2. So first one from John Michael D. He says, "How worried are we that Stetson Bennett IV gets promoted to Postmaster General before JT Daniels is healthy again?" And he's so obviously we appreciate that. Then he says, "Seriously,
I see what you did there."
He says, "Seriously though, what is y'all's opinion if Stetson has to keep the reins all year at quarterback?" And then he says, "I think every goal this team has is still attainable with him, but would love GT back." And I just wanted to add that Aaron King also had a similar question. He said, "Can we win a natty if Stetson stays the starter?" he said, personally, I'm starting to think we can. So that's why I kind of tabled that earlier, was because of those two questions. Which neither of those questions are to say like, is there a quarterback controversy? But it's more on, are we okay with Stetson? And I think I'll say this: much to the chagrin of Jeff Schultz, I think the answer might be yes.
I'm gonna go with we are just fine with Stetson until we aren't.
No, like for real, like that's a good way to put it.
I feel like that he's played himself into a Jake Fromm kind of scenario where, listen,
man, that's bold. That's bold. So you think we're? I don't think we're there yet. But okay, continue.
Okay, well, after he beats the second top 10 team in his career or whatever, like I don't know, man. Like he's beaten all these teams. So like in my mind, this is
this John? Am I talking to John or am I talking to Aaron Murray? What's going on here?
No, you're talking to the John that has the. You're talking to the John, but you're also really talking to Kirby Smart's mentality. And I think that you've hit on it. You've hit on it and you've touched on it. And he has outright flippin' said it out loud. He knows what he's got on the defensive side. He knows that there is not a single team in the country, with the exception of like a handful of guys that we might play later in the season, that can even remotely touch our defense. He knows. It's kind of like gambling in Vegas. The house always wins. And that's exactly what the Georgia football team is like right now. The house always wins. And the house in this case is the defense. You may go on a tear here or there. You may win a hand. You may win. And that's exactly what Auburn felt. Auburn felt that way. They kicked that field goal and they celebrated like they won the Super Bowl or whatever. I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny some video edits that I've seen out there of Auburn kicking a field goal.
Shout out Skinny from prison.
Skinny from prison.
The video was amazing.
But you can only hope to score a touchdown on this team when we decide that we've given up so much that we don't care if you score a touchdown. That's ultimately what has happened throughout the season. You got the pick six that was scored on that technically shouldn't count towards the defense. So really our points against averages should be significantly lower. You've got touchdowns that are scored in garbage time. You've got touchdowns that are scored in meaningless blowouts against top 10 teams. It's exactly what Kirby Smart wants. It's literally Kirby's wet dream, is that I've got so much firepower on the defensive side that literally nobody's going to be able to beat. So why would I ever put that into risk when it's working? And that's exactly what happened when Fromm took over the role. He took over the role of big time game player, and Stetson's had some. He's had some. I mean, I was just having this thought when I was looking at his stat line. Like, I need to go back and look. I actually think that Stetson is actually outperforming Jake Fromm's numbers. Does that make sense?
Oh man!
And that's why I say
Well, Jake Fromm's numbers which year? Like 17? Like Jake Fromm freshman, or Jake Fromm 29. Like my point being, 2019 Jake Fromm not the same as 17, and certainly not the same as
I actually think that he got worse. I think he got worse after his freshman year.
That's my point, right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I actually think that he's doing better than any of his years. Like, he's
18 Fromm was peak Fromm for me. 18 was his best year. I know what you're saying. But I think the answer is we think we're with that. Stetson is perfectly capable. I will add, I don't think, to me, I still think that a healthy JT is a starter, and but if anyone wants to disagree with it, that I'm not going to get mad about it. And frankly, I love the story and Stetson's an incredible story. Regardless, all I care about is like that we win. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with Stetson Bennett starting quarterback in Georgia, right?
No, there's nothing wrong with him starting quarterback at Georgia, but you know, I do think that there's an element of so here's the thing. So do we believe that Kirby Smart has suddenly reincarnated into someone that doesn't want to play to win?
No, no, we don't. But I don't think that. I mean, again, put yourself in Kirby Smart's mind. Like, is he more worried about? Like, he doesn't think that JT is going to lead the team to win. I mean, JT's never lost as a starter at Georgia. So,
in my mind, what he's looking at right now is completely new data. Like, he has never seen Stetson play this way.
Oh, that's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, Stetson Bennett now is not Stetson Bennett last year.
The University of Georgia has never seen Stetson play this way.
Yeah, no, he looks completely different from last year, which is good. I mean,
yeah.
You know, once again, the Kirby can't develop narrative is dead. I think Stetson Bennett is proof of that. So, all right. So yeah, but
sure.
Ultimately, we both our answer to the questions is yes. Like Stetson is perfectly capable. So I think that's the answer. Let's go to Zach.
I think what will slam that door shut is if JT Daniels gets a chance to play 100% of the snaps in, well, I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean? Start and play through.
Here's what's going to happen, in my opinion. JT is going to start the Florida game, and we're going to remember how awesome he is, and the stuff's going to stop. Unless he gets hurt again. That's my theory. That's what I think will happen.
What if he doesn't start the Florida game?
Okay, yeah. If JT doesn't start the Florida game, then I'm going to start asking questions. then I'm with you. All right, Zach, SC Dog 864. Thoughts on nickname for Stetson Bennett to Ladd McConkey? Mine is White Lightning.
I don't know that will ever be the name of that, but I certainly appreciate it. Didn't we used to call, what's his face that used to be you'll remember the white receiver that used to always catch the passes from like Stafford?
Chris Durham?
Durham. Yep. They used to call him White Lightning.
Did they? See, I don't know. I don't remember these things. I have two suggestions for this. One, I think the answer to me is the law firm, because you can't tell me that Bennett and McConkey doesn't sound like a law firm. So that's my serious answer. The other one is I've got to sometimes.
That's pretty good.
Sometimes typos and or autocorrects are the best. And I don't remember if you remember this or not, but the other day you were texting about McConkey and it came through as McKinky. And I was like,
it was totally a typo.
I was like, was that a typo or was that serious? Or was that intentional? Same as. Good stuff. So yeah, to me, I don't think. I mean, the law firm, right? It's got to be the law firm. Okay.
So we're just talking about the connection that those two have, or are we talking about that actual play, like just Johnson in the corner, or there goes Herschel? Like, is that what we're talking about? Or?
Just a nickname. Like, what do you call?
Oh, okay.
What's the nickname for those two?
The law firm.
Yeah, to me, it's the law firm.
I like it.
It's the law firm.
Bennett McConkey.
I mean, it's all right. Okay.
Sounds like the best personal injury law firm in the Athens greater area.
I mean, it's so good that you could put Jordan Davis on their billboard, right? I mean, come on.
You should put Jordan. That's totally a missed opportunity by Win-Win-1.
All right.
I think that Gary Martin Hayes should definitely take an ad out with with McConkey and Bennett.
Bennett McConkey.
Bennett McConkey, whatever.
All right, Fletcher Proctor. What players might be a surprise early draft entry? I worry about Trayvon Walker going early when he'd be one of the absolute stars next year. All I gotta say is like Fletcher, we're 6-0, and you're Munsoning so hardcore that you're worried about who's gonna leave early. Which I respect.
I hadn't even thought about that.
I respect. I would say to me, Trayvon is the one guy I would think about. I would agree. I can't really like off the top of my head. I can't think of anyone else. Like I think he's right, but part of that is because I don't really want to think about that right now. We'll talk about that at the end of the year.
I definitely don't want to think about it, but it kind of goes back to the Matt Hinton stuff that was talking about, like,
yeah,
Trayvon, outside of Trayvon and maybe Tyndall, maybe Smith, maybe Anderson. Anyway, like basically, unless you had a player that had like stats that they could point to, that they could lean on, like Adam Anderson has 4.5 sacks, which is probably going to grow. Nakobe Dean has 3.5 sacks. Channing Tyndall leads the team in tackles, tackles for loss, all that kind of stuff. So like, unless you had someone that you could just point to the stats and say, okay, they definitely have a resume that they could put together to justify going. But then at the same time, like there are a number of players like Jordan Davis that are not going to have those stats to back up potentially going. So it wouldn't surprise me, but much like what we've seen on the offensive side, like frankly, I don't even care at this point.
Yeah, you've got to trust Kirby. You've got to trust that he's built the machine, right? At this point.
And we're 6 years into a recruiting juggernaut that he started from day one, basically.
Yep.
So we're just a couple of years past his first full cycle, which you got to kind of figure like the first couple of years are really like him getting a feel for what's going on, really, as a head coach. So truly, we're approaching like the sweet spot from a recruiting standpoint with what he's built. And in my opinion, and I recognize that I say this as a like, oh my God, guys, why don't we have any offensive line recruits? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yes, yeah.
I'm definitely one of those guys that's like, I see all these recruits. We got a tight end that's committing tomorrow. Tomorrow is Delph is the dog day or whatever. We've got some of these guys that are coming into Athens that are committed elsewhere. It's like, well, I'm not really super worried about it because of what we have in the bag.
Yep.
And what's coming.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. Erks Russell. How would Larry Munson handle the big wins so far this season? I have two thoughts. One, I would recommend, and this is not exactly it, but I recommend searching YouTube for Lauren Smith's letter to Larry that he wrote after we beat LSU in 2014, I think it was. Go watch that video. It's incredible. If you can make it through that video without crying, more power to you. I know I can't. Larry would love it. He would have smoked a fat cigar when we beat Clemson. He would have smoked a cigar when we beat Arkansas. He would have smoked a cigar when we beat Auburn. And I tweeted after we beat Auburn on Saturday. I tweeted that Larry Munson lit a cigar in heaven tonight, and I firmly believe that. So he would be loving every minute of it. That is one thing. The only other thing I will add is that Larry Munson would be scared to death of Kentucky on Saturday because he was scared to death of the opponent every week. Because that's how he was, and that's why we say Munsoning.
Interesting.
And I know this firsthand because someday I'll tell the story. I've told this story. And so Justin or Nathan, if you're listening, we got to drop this. I drove Larry Munson to the homecoming parade when we played Kentucky in 2001. And
so it's the 20-year anniversary, so you've got an anecdote for us.
I do, yeah. So our fraternity brother, Kenny Wood, no relation to me. He was the he was on the homecoming parade committee, and he called me and asked me to pick Larry Munson up at his house and drive him to the parade. And so I've told we're running long anyway, so I won't go too much into it. And I recorded this with Justin from Chapel.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Time out. Let's definitely go into it. I don't care how long this has been.
Well, there's a whole episode. Of Chapel Bell Curve, and I actually reached out to them today because I want to get it out there. So I picked up Larry at his house and I drove to the homecoming parade. And it is like, I gotta tell you, man, it was like having the radio sitting next to you. Like the way you heard him on the radio, like that's what he talks. That's just how he talks.
That's just how he talks.
That's just how he talks. And
so you're like sitting there, like, all right, Larry, where do you need to go?
No,
and he's like, well, Jim, you're gonna take a turn. No, take a left.
No, here's no. First off, he didn't call me Jim. He refused to call me Jim. He called me Wood.
And
then we hit a barricade at some point. And stupid me, I should have rolled down because I was trying to get up. I was like, we got blocked by the parade or whatever. And I knew where I was going because where our fraternity house was, right? Because I was going down Prince, so I took some back roads to get to where we were trying to get to. And when I turned left off of Prince Avenue, and I was in those back roads, he looked at me and he goes, "Wood, I don't know where we are right now." He was like,
"Wood, I don't know where we are right now."
So he called me Wood the entire time. It was pretty funny.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was that's crazy. So man, but anyway, so that was 2001. We were about to play Kentucky. This is the day before because it was the homecoming parade, and the guy was scared to death, right? It was, and you get to spend time with Larry Munson, right? You gotta talk to him about football. So I was like, Larry, how you feeling about the game tomorrow? And he was like, "Well, Wood, they got that quarterback Godzilla," which was Jared Lorenzen. And he was like,
Jared Lorenzen,
because he called him Godzilla, and he was like, "Oh no, we're gonna stop Godzilla." I remember he was all about that, and he was super worried because I think Musa Smith was hurt or something, and so he was convinced we were gonna lose. That's just how he was. So he would be super excited. He would have celebrated every victory. He would have talked about how great this team is, but he also would have been scared to death of Kentucky. I promise you that.
But seriously, what would he have been scared of?
He's scared of everything. That's why we call it Munsoning.
I know, but
he would pick out something random, right? He would be, he would find he would look at he would call out those things that we called out earlier, but he wouldn't add the but who have they played. He would just be like, they've got
they've got that blue jean quarterback.
Well, he would say they've got the fourth ranked defense in the SEC and all that kind of stuff. So he would point that out.
Right.
All right. So
all fair.
I think my day with Munson, it has to be its own episode. I can't put that in here.
Nathan, if y'all are listening, y'all need to put it out there.
I sent them a message today. I had originally intended to get that out this week, and I didn't follow it with them. So we'll get it out there someday. All right, Ryan Pipes at Pipes UGA. Am I again with the Munson theme? Am I the only person who is absolutely terrified of us being number one? Is this Munsoning at its finest?
Absolutely.
I appreciate the Munsoning. It is Munsoning at its finest. I'm going to say though, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Ryan is not the only person terrified of being number one. There are plenty of people. But we are encouraging you not to be terrified. Look, here's the thing. Why do we love sports? Why do we love football? It's supposed to be fun, right? Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. We're the number one team in all the land. We have not been the number one team in all the land in the AP poll in the middle of the season since 1982. So, Ryan, I don't know how old you are, Ryan, but unless you're older than us or our age, you weren't even born then. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. That's my advice.
The data shows that we have a 96% chance of winning this game, which is the highest the entire season.
That just gave me callback. That gave me the Blanche, Golden Girls spritz water. Or something.
Spritz the water, Jim. Spritz away.
All right. Update from Pain Dog. So Pain Dog says Monken is a madman. 11 different dogs carried the ball / had a reception last week, and that was even with a heavy dose of the run game in the second half. Over under 11 dog touches this week against the Kittens.
Let's see. So obviously we're counting the quarterback as a touch, right? So
No. Well, I guess so. Well, he could be a carry. So I guess a rush would count. It's rushes plus rushes and receptions.
I mean, he'll get a sack, or hopefully he'll not get a sack.
No sacks. Where is this nonsense? Bad example.
He'll get a carry. He'll get a carry. He's for sure going to pull it because he showcased his legs in the last game, Jim.
I agree. But you're missing the perfect opportunity to have a quick, easy answer of push. It's a push at 11. He didn't set it at a half, so it's an obvious push. It's going to be exactly like last week. I got to get to the update because this is amazing. I love that Pain Dog added this. He said, P.S. Still married to my Auburn wife. We survived house divided weekend, which I love. And I got to add that last week when I was editing the episode and when we got to his question and we were talking about his house divided, I was like, I hope Pain Dog isn't mad at us. Because we were like, oh man, I don't know how he does that, or I think we were more what I was trying to say was I would do something dumb, and I was trying to talk about me, and so hopefully, I don't know. He asked a question this week, so I assume everything's cool.
Everything's fine with Pain Dog. Good need to. How long has Pain Dog been married? That's probably a good question for how that marriage is going.
Man.
But so 11 different dogs had a reception.
I'm going push.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say push.
It's gonna be hard to get more than that. Plus, we had the this year's victory cigar. Savion Clark got a carry last week. So,
so really the question there would be who didn't get a touch that will get a touch this time.
Well, see, you got to think could someone come back, right? Maybe a McIntosh or a Rosemy Jack Saint. Someone who Kirby was not hopeful about, but thinks actually might play.
Yep.
All right. So this one's funny. Friend of the show, Tim Riley. Who would you like to see as college game day guest picker? And I read through this ahead of time, but I still don't have a good answer because I wanted Harris English, and we got him last time. So now I'm okay, well, now who are we going to have? I did see Dog Stats was saying he was trying to call for Rodrigo because the Colts already played this week. That wouldn't be a bad one. So I'll go with Hot Rod.
All right, so I would love to see Corey Smith out there, but it's never going to happen. But that would be my own personal favorite. Would be see Corey Smith up there. But nobody knows who Corey Smith is outside of Athens, right? Or the small, UGA fan base that he has or whatever.
Right.
So I'll go bigger than that and say, let's see. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this one. I really don't.
Yeah, it was hard because I didn't think we could hear us English and maybe we did. So I was kind of how about we go my God, a podcast favorite. Oh wait, now I just forgot his name.
I think you just got a cold open.
Oh crap! I got a podcast favorite. I can see his face. I can see his face. Friday Night Lights. Why can't I think of his name? What's the Friday Night Lights?
Kyle Chandler.
God, Kyle Chandler. Gosh, yes, Kyle Chandler. We'll go Kyle Chandler. My God, a podcast favorite.
I feel like he's gone under the radar. I haven't seen him in anything lately.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I don't know. Jason Aldean hasn't done one yet, has he? Although he's not super big right now, so I don't know. I got nothing there.
All right, we'll go Kyle Chandler. What's that? What was that?
What was that?
Oh my gosh. It's Coach Trillbill's music. It's time. It's time for Coach Trillbill's over-unders.
That's awesome.
All right.
All right, what do we got? What do we got, Coach?
All right, Coach Trillbill's over-unders. Sacks. 4.5 sacks. Can we focus? Can we focus on the music? Do we need to cut it out, or do we let it keep running?
I feel like we probably should cut it out.
Okay, we'll end the music.
I'm gonna go over.
Ooh, I love that. Man, I really want to go under. I mean, I really want to go over, but I'm thinking about going under to disagree with you. But I'm gonna be a conformist.
Well, I do feel like it's probably a pretty bold assessment.
It is bold. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under to disagree, but I want it to be over. But that doesn't mean I'm not cheering for the over. I hope I'm wrong. Forced turnovers, 2.5.
Push.
You can't push on the half. It is a lot.
I think it's. I'm gonna go under.
I'm gonna go over, considering they're at like minus whatever it was 8 on the year. So I'm gonna go over. Okay, Georgia.
Well, all that means is that they're averaging like 1 turnover a game.
They're just not getting any. Yeah. I haven't looked into the actual numbers behind that stat, but whatever. All right, Georgia rushing touchdowns, 3.5. That's a lot.
3.5. I'm gonna go under because I think it's gonna be 3.
Okay, I have to agree. Passing touchdowns, 2.5 over under.
Under.
I'm gonna go
2.
over. I'll go over.
Okay.
UGA on upset alert references on game day and CBS. Over under sit at 5.5.
Wait, upset alert?
How many times will they say that Georgia's on upset alert on either game day or CBS? Over under sit at 5.5.
I'll go with the over.
Okay. Reminder, we will not count this for you, Coach Tribble. You gotta count these yourself.
Coach is keeping track of these, isn't he?
Yeah, he obviously. I'll go under. He's got his own theme music. He has to keep track of it.
Right.
Let's see. Gary Danielson references a former SEC quarterback not associated with either team. For example, Tebow or Cam Newton. Over under sit at 3.
Ooh, that's actually a good one.
That's a really good one.
3? Three's the number?
Yeah, 3's the number.
I'm gonna go push because I feel like he's gonna mention. I feel like he's gonna mention at least those 2,
right.
And then a push,
right.
And then a one more.
Right.
He's gonna mention Fromm. He'll probably mention McElroy. He'll mention Cam Newton. Maybe I should take the overs.
All right, I'm gonna go under.
And he's gonna mention Fields. Does Fields count in that scenario? I'm officially taking the over.
Okay, fair. All right, I'll take the under to disagree. And then over under 50 bourbon tailgate pictures.
Ooh, on the Twitters or like
sure.
that you will take or I will take?
I think that's fair enough.
I don't know. There'll be a lot of bourbon tailgate pictures.
All the bourbon tailgate pictures because it's a good.
Is your dad going?
Yeah. My parents are going. Yeah. Yep, they'll be there.
Your parents are going?
Yep, they'll be there.
So there'll be a few of those. Bobby, Greg's going to tweet some.
Greg's going to have all the bourbon tailgate pictures apparently. So we'll watch out for those.
Kurt's going to tweet some. Yeah, I would say, 50 is pretty conservative. We'll do push.
Okay, you'll push. I'm going to take the under because it's a lot. All right, we're running long. Let's get into our predictions. So I've got the over-under is set at 44.5. And Georgia is favored by 23.5 points. I'm not going to get into my logic because I think we talked about it a lot. Clearly, we expect Georgia to win. If you add up like the over under in the spread, that would be about a 34-10 Georgia win. Our friends at OddsShark, who are not a sponsor, but we just like their site, they're saying Georgia wins 47.4 to 14.4. So they're predicting a big win. I'm going to go Georgia 37 to 13, which is a cover and the over. That's my prediction.
Okay. I'm going to go 36-9.
Okay. So we're pretty much right there in line. Cool.
Yep.
Good deal. Well, I think that's about it. This was a good one. This was fun.
This one is fun because I feel like that people are starting to just get used to the fact that we're freaking awesome right now. And there's really not a whole lot that anybody has been able to say about it. So, and frankly, the body of work that people have put out on the field just pales in comparison to what we've put out there. So
yeah,
we really are the elephant in the room, for lack of a better description. Sorry to the Alabama fans, but we are the elephant now.
Yeah, I mean, this is this team is really good, man. This team is really good. Again, it's just like I feel like I sound like a broken record, but it's the whole thing where like if this team if the kids are ready to play and they're focused, then they're going to win. Like that's kind of what it boils down to again this week. The one thing we didn't talk about is like we keep having this like week to week conversation of like, is this the best team Georgia's played this year? And it's like we've had that conversation I don't know how many times, and like I'm not sure that it is. I'm not sure that Kentucky. I know they still haven't lost yet, but I'm not sure that Kentucky's the best team we've played this year. I'm going to actually say that I don't think they are, but we'll probably find out on Saturday.
For sure.
Cool. All right, man. Well, enjoy your weekend, and like, so you're not going, right? I know I'm definitely not going. I think you're not going.
It's about a 95% chance that I'm not going based on my wife's birthday weekend.
Got it. No worries. So we will we'll be doing the texting. We'll do the texting and hit us up on the socials and follow along with the official hashtag of the game. And
yeah, absolutely. We'll have to figure out if we have a Braves game to watch at the end. Apparently.
Right. Yeah, that was. I was kind of worried.
I don't know what the schedule is.
I was worried earlier tonight that the Braves game was going to run into when we were planning to start recording. So I was glad that they they closed it out early. We didn't have to worry about that. So
it did. It worked out. It worked out nicely. Although I don't know what's the situation with LA and the Giants.
The Dodgers are winning 5-1 right now.
So game 1 is actually going to be Saturday.
Okay.
It could be an NLCS evening for us.
That'd be nice. Watch a Georgia game. Then I could sit outside with some bourbon and watch the Braves. That'd be nice.
I would enjoy it. I would enjoy that. Because then you've got baseball and you've got this lovely like mix of football and baseball going on right now, and it's just nice to have a team that's playing pretty good in baseball as well as doing really well on the football field. So
right, cool, good deal, man. All right, well, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll be talking throughout the day on Saturday, and hopefully the dogs can. I don't know. Hopefully it pans out like we think it will.
Yep, I have no doubts. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.